Okay. Alright. Make sure this is out right. Alright, hello everyone. Today I am playing one of my favorite games ever, Final Fantasy VIII. Move my cursor out of the way so you can't see that. And I'm clearly playing this on the Steam version of the game. So I have my Xbox controller plugged into my laptop, and I am not entirely used to the controls on this. I have done this I've played for the first hour of the game or so, like 3 or 4 times this week, but every time I've had some compression issues with the video recording, so I've messed with the settings on OBS, and it should be fixed now. So, you know, 4th time's the charm, I guess. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this roll real quick. This opening video, because it's a good introduction to the game for people who aren't aware of what the game's about. It's just, all it is a bunch of still shots of some of the principal characters, but, you know, you get a feel for the world a little bit, and it gives me time to kind of talk a little bit and explain what I'm trying to do with this. So, the other day, when I first thought about doing this, so I guess a week ago, a buddy of mine said he had never played Final Fantasy VIII. It's like all the other Final Fantasies, just not 8. Like, okay. And we were talking about it in the context of Final Fantasy XIV, because one of the new expansions involves gunblades. And it is very, from the trailer at least, it's not out yet, kind of dating this video. From the trailer, speaking of gunblades, there you go. But from the trailer at least, it seems very Final Fantasy VIII inspired. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to record this, put it up, so people can see it. People who haven't played Final Fantasy VIII can see it, and if they happen to play Final Fantasy XIV and aren't familiar with 8, they get the, I don't know. You can see where I'm going with that. It's just one of a few different reasons. It's also my favorite Final Fantasy game. It's not a very big critical success, though. A lot of people don't have fond memories of Final Fantasy VIII. I mean, I take that back. People do. They just don't put it as the best. I call it the best. Not many people call it the best, because there are some valid criticisms of the combat system, and we'll get into that when it happens. One of the biggest, most obvious issues with Final Fantasy VIII, specifically, is that it does use a new combat mechanic that other Final Fantasy games hadn't used. And, you know, for the most part, every Final Fantasy game has its own sort of unique gimmick. Final Fantasy X had their sphere grid, Final Fantasy XII had the license board, Final Fantasy VII had materia, so that, I mean, they all kind of have their own thing, but they're also a lot more straightforward than Final Fantasy VIII's junction system. That's the system Final Fantasy VIII uses. It's a little bit complex. So that's one of the major criticisms of Final Fantasy VIII. It's both its biggest strength and its biggest downfall, because it is I'm trying to think of the word. Not ingenious, but it does start with an I. I don't know, it'll come to me. Innovative. It is innovative. It allows the players to set up their playstyle exactly the way they want it to be, and it's opened up to you from the very beginning. It's very open-ended like that. The downside to that, though, is that if it's opened up to you from the very beginning, that means people who've played this game a dozen times over, like I have, know exactly what to do from the very start to just breeze through the game like it's nothing. So the game is super challenging for those who don't know how to play it, and super, super easy for those who do. So it's very... I would say it's the now I'm struggling to come up with the right words. But the system has its strengths and its negatives, and for that reason, I'm not really going to explain too much how it works. I'm just going to play through the game, and you can pick it up by watching me, or you cannot, because if you want to experience discovering it on your own, then that is something you should do on your own. That's part of the fun of the game, and I don't want to ruin it using my expertise for you guys. I will, however, be giving hints and tips throughout the game. I am going to treat this a little bit like a walkthrough, like a video walkthrough, more than just a playthrough. I am going to go attempt 100% completion. So I am going to give some hints and tricks where hidden items are, things like that, side quests and stuff. But I'm going to, for the most part, skip over tutorials and strategic stuff. Just to, leave some challenge for the people who are actually going to play alongside me. Now, this opening cutscene is interesting because half of it is like preview for what's to come, and half of it is what is actually happening, like an opening to the game. This sword fight is real. The guy in the white coat totally cheated. Can't throw fireballs in the middle of a sword fight. But the rest of the cutscene, the witch and the other characters, that hasn't happened. It might happen throughout the course of the game. It might not, it's going to happen in the course of the game. But the sword fight's the only part that's actually real about that cutscene. Because your character wakes up in the hospital. Face all bloodied up. So you got a little bit of lore, I guess. Alright, now I always stick with the default names, personally. I just find it is easier to do it that way, especially if it's your first time playing a game, because then you go onto message boards or whatever and discuss the game or look up guides, and it's just easier to know exactly what each character is, who they're referring to. Now in this game you only actually name the protagonist, so it doesn't really matter, but yeah. Yes, Cypher was the guy in the white coat. Okay. I'll probably leave a scar. Now, they don't really address this, but, this character heals up pretty quick. Like, he takes his bandages off as soon as he leaves here, and he just already has the scar. There's no injury or anything. Okay, so here we have a mysterious woman coming in. So we meet again, and then she just walks off, and that's it. Yeah, we never see her again. Alright, so these sort of cutscenes are how they introduce the playable characters, the party members. So, Quistis, your instructor, is a party member. So when she was called down to pick up her student from the hospital, the infirmary, she knew it had to be one of us. So apparently we're the troubled students. Okay. So one of the things I really like about Final Fantasy VIII is the character development and the way the party members interact. And this scene kind of establishes that to a little degree. Because, Final Fantasy has a reputation for having brooding, angsty teenage protagonists, and Final Fantasy VIII's the same way, but they really address it head on. Like right here, she's making fun of him for being all loner and brutish, and I feel like that is really good characterization. She's, although it's also not at all professional for a teacher to do that. Just throwing that out there. So this game is 20 years old now. 1999. So they have this interesting blend of what I guess would have been HD by their standards and the polygons, and they have the detailed backgrounds and then the weird shaped character models, which is a very interesting way of doing things. Okay. Another point about her not being a very professional teacher, she's calling out Cypher in the middle of class for injuring his partner during training. But the thing is, Squall, the protagonist, has a scar across his face, but so does Cypher throughout the rest of the game. Both of them have scarred faces from that fight. They were both injured. Just because Squall was the one that went to the hospital doesn't mean Cypher wasn't hurt in that fight. So she's kind of playing favorites a little bit. Although there's nothing wrong with that, Cypher's a dick. I could have talked to the other 3 students. They are members of the Quistis fan club. They're the Treppies. They're kind of comic relief, and they kind of hang out around Quistis throughout the game. Apparently she's the hot young teacher that everyone likes. She's only about a year older than Squall is here, so it's kind of, interesting dynamic. Okay. But I'm not going to bother doing that because it's just background information. And, just comic relief stuff. Alright, but what I am going to do, you go to your study panel back here. Hint and or trick number 1. If you go into the tutorial screen, and you'll get your very first 2 Guardian forces. Again, I'm going to stick with the default names. I'm probably going to regret that when it comes to Quetzalcoatl there, because saying that 5 times fast, but, I'll manage. Now, I'm not actually going to look at any of the tutorial stuff. I just logged in to get the Guardian forces. The other information in here is some of it's comic relief information, some of it is lore. I know there's an ongoing, there's a forum page in here that all the members go into, I think under the Garden Square. All of the students are part of this forum, and there's this long, drawn-out argument about the cafeteria's hot dogs. Apparently there's a hot dog shortage. So, there's some comic relief stuff in there. Some lore, though, is kind of important, and if you don't read it, it doesn't necessarily negatively impact your game, because they'll get to it eventually in the gameplay. It's just a longer, drawn-out process. It's going to be a while before it comes up, so it's better to be prepared for it ahead of time. Okay, hint and trick number 2. They say their seed examination is in the afternoon, but every single choice you make up until then matters. So I'm going to say, are you okay? Because I'm pretty sure that being a good teammate, being a good friendly person affects your score. So this is a student that was late to class and missed homeroom. She's a transfer student from another garden, and I'll get into what gardens are in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes, mostly for the audience's benefit more than mine, because I don't think this actually matters for the score on the test. But this initiates sort of a tutorial where you go to the directory and look at the map of the garden. So you get a feel for the building, like the school. Okay, tip and trick number 2, talk to this guy. Or number 3, talk to this guy. Number 2 is be aware of all of your choices up until the seed exam. But you definitely want to talk to this guy. He gives you your first deck of cards, which is for Triple Triad, the minigame in Final Fantasy VIII. Okay. Just going to scroll down here. That is the directory. So while he's going through this, I'm not going to bother reading most of this. It's not super important. I'll go ahead and briefly explain about the gardens. So the gardens are a system of military academies, and basically exactly what they sound like. They train students in combat. They have a mercenary guild within the military academy, referred to as Seed, and it's a pun. It's the seeds come from the garden, and they are basically the top class students are hired in as part of Seed, and they work for the garden, and that's how the garden makes their money. That's how the garden keeps their doors open, because it's a tuition-free military academy, and they just use the mercenaries to fund everything they do, and they use the students as recruits for the mercenary group, so it's kind of self-fulfilling to a way, in a sort of way. So there's that. This is taking a little bit longer than I thought it would. Oh, so there is a garden festival going on in the quad. Kind of a big party celebrating the garden. This girl is on the committee, the planning committee, and Squall is not having any of that. Just, nope, let's just continue. Okay. Training facility is the only facility open at night. Interesting, you'd think the infirmary would be open 24/7. It's kind of important, but alright. Okay. Sid, yes. Okay, so every Final Fantasy game has a character named Sid. They're not the same character, it's just a name that they reuse. And this game has Headmaster Sid. He's actually relatively important to the plot, which isn't always the case for Sids throughout the Final Fantasy series. Some of them are completely irrelevant, but this guy's pretty important. Alright. Tip and trick number 4. You can junction before you get the tutorial, if you know what you're doing. There's also a draw point in the library. there's also, I forgot about this, a magazine in the library. Occult Fan number 1. Throughout the game, you'll get several different magazines. Weapons Monthly is important because that's how you upgrade your weapons throughout the game. I think there's a Pet Lovers magazine. There's a few magazines that you'll have to find throughout the game. Now this is going to be a 100% completion run, so you'll get all of them. Just watch how I do it. Occult Monthly specifically, though, or Occult Fan 1 specifically, is one you can get again later. So right now, that's actually, well, not right now, but when you get access to a store, that's actually a good magazine to sell for some lot of early cash early on in the game, because it's worth significant amount of money right now, and later on in the game, money is irrelevant, so you can just buy it back later. So here's Quistis outside of her uniform. She's going to give you a tutorial on junctioning the GF. I'm going to skip it because I know how to junction. Okay. And be sure that you do junction both characters. Alright. Okay, while you are on the main road, there is no encounters. So you can get into town from here if you wanted, over there, by following the main road, without any concern for fights. However, we are going to the Fire Cavern, which is over there. Avoid going into the forest. There are some things in there that you can't really beat right now. I'm surprised I didn't get any encounters along the way. I'm going to skip this tutorial as well. I will go into the lore, and I'm going to skip that tutorial as well. Okay. I will get into the lore of the junctioning, though, a little bit. While I'm doing this. Because before your first combat, it's a good thing we didn't have a combat there. First thing you want to do is change the abilities that your GFs are going to learn. She doesn't actually give you the tutorial on how to do this until you get back from the Fire Cavern, so I'm just telling you right now, go to the menu, go to GF, Guardian Force, choose the Guardian Force, hit Learn, and then change the ability that they are learning. Because the defaults, Summoning Magic Plus, HP Plus, those are useless. You don't want those. For Quetzalcoatl, you want to start with Card, or Thunder Magic Refinery. One of those two things. And for Shiva, you want to start with Ice Magic Refinery. Always do the refineries and the junctions first, like Strength Junction, Vitality Junction for Shiva, and HP and Vitality for Quetzalcoatl. So the refineries and the junctions are the first ones you want to do. Now the GFs are basically spirits that you implant indirectly into your brain, and they enhance your abilities. And there's some lore involving them, and they become plot relevant later as well. Okay, so we're on a mission to obtain a low-level GF. A seed member must come with me for support. Am I ready? Yep. Instruction number 14, Quistis Trap, is a seed member that's coming with me for support. Okay, select a time limit, one suited to your abilities, challenging yet reasonable. Just go with 10 minutes is plenty of time. If you go straight there, it's plenty of time, I should specify. It is more or less a straight shot. There's one or two offshoots between here and there. Quistis says it's her job to support me in battle, nothing else. Fine. You know the boys often show up when they take this test when I come with them. I guess my charms make them nervous. He's not having it. It's like, okay, whatever. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Trying to keep you relaxed, that's all. Yeah, so she's roughly Squall's age. Because this is a combat academy, your ranking, whether you're a student or teacher, isn't really a age thing so much as you know, so much as a skill thing. Okay, so that's the first combat of the game. Notice how the timer does not stop during victory animations. So that's something to be aware of when you are playing this. I'm just going to keep going. There's a draw point there on the right, but because of the timer, I'll just get that on the way out. It's not really important right now. Okay. Now the battles with the bombs are a bit of a pain. We don't have an ice attack just yet, and we don't have the scan spell yet either, but that's more of a luck thing than anything else right now. We just haven't come across it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is use a GF. Give a little bit of a tutorial on how that works. You notice how Quistis' HP was replaced with Shiva's HP during the summoning, and there's this little charge bar working its way down. The GF kind of defends you. Its HP is like a temporary HP on top of your own while you are summoning it. And then once it's summoned, it's a powerful magical creature that comes out and attacks for you, like Shiva is here, this animation here. These animations can't be skipped, so normally if you're on a timer like I am, you wouldn't want to do it, but the bombs are just a pain, so it's just faster just to use Shiva against them real quick. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Alright. Okay. He just gives the hand gestures like, alright, I'm ready. So this is the first boss of the game. It's pretty simple. It's just Ifrit, Fire Guardian Horse. Okay, I did skip the tutorial over this, but if you hit the trigger right as, and when I say trigger I mean right bumper, right as Squall strikes an enemy, you can do extra damage. It's a 50% bonus damage, and it's guaranteed every time when Squall strikes with the right bumper. And the timing on it is actually pretty easy. It's there's no reason why you shouldn't always get it. So just remember that when you're playing. Oh yeah, he's worried now. Got Shiva. Ooh, that is a big oof. If Shiva is killed, if your GF is killed, then you just can't summon them anymore until you revive them. Hopefully that doesn't happen, because Shiva's doing the most damage to him. The ice summon versus the fire summon. So hopefully this all works out, but we will see. So you can cast, but here's the thing, the healing goes to the character, not to the Guardian Force. So I guess I should explain the draw system a bit more. Alright, so according to the lore of Final Fantasy VIII, human beings are not capable of magic. It's not something they can do. However, with the power of a Guardian Force in their brain, they can harness the magic of beings around them. So you can draw from monsters, from enemies, and use them, and use the drawn magic as though it is an item, basically. Okay, so Shiva is down. That's fine, I don't really need her at this point. I think we're pretty close to done with the fight, but she was doing way more damage than Quistis is on her own, so... we're at 3 minutes left, and he's trying to ram him down. Right, so human beings are not capable of magic on their own. They have to pull magic from their environment and then store it like an inventory item almost. And they can only really do that with the help of a Guardian Force. Now, according to the lore of the game, 20 some odd years ago, maybe 18 years ago, there was a major war between... Okay, so we have 2.5 minutes left on the clock. That's going to be relevant here in a second. Okay. Alright, so here's another hint and or trick. When you first entered the Fire Cavern, you were told to set a time limit for yourself. And it was told to be something challenging yet reasonable. Well, what they are measuring there is how close to 0 you can get without going over. And that is relevant to the test score at the end. So how close you can get to 0 seconds left without going over. Well, there's a little glitch. I don't think it's a glitch necessarily, but the way the game is coded, when you are on this screen, the name the character screen, they have it in the system that you have completed the task, but the timer is still going. So if you stay on this screen for the remainder of the time, you can guarantee the 000 score, the best score possible, the closest to 0 without going over, just by staying on this screen for the rest of your time. So I'm just going to sit here for a minute and explain to you the history. Where was I? Okay. So 20 years ago or so, there was a major war between the two largest countries on the planet. Galbadia to the west and F-Star to the east. Now F-Star is a massive technological power. It has, weaponry and technology beyond anything anyone else has really seen. And on top of that, the leader of F-Star was a dictator, a sorceress. Now, sorceresses are humans that can, in fact, use magic. They don't need GFs, they don't need to draw from their environment, and there is no, there's no MP, there's no limited number of castings. They can just cast magic inherently and indefinitely. That's what makes sorceresses so powerful. And so F-Star has this huge technological advantage and this huge magic advantage as well, and so Galbadia didn't really stand a chance. So in desperation, Galbadia expanded and became a empire, annexed its surrounding nations and its neighbors, and just took over land and conscripted the newly taken over lands into the military, so on and so forth, because they needed the troops. They didn't stand a chance. So it was quality versus quantity, really. F-Star had this huge military force, F-Star had this huge technology advantage, and Galbadia had the numbers on their side because they had expanded so much. Until one day, that star just vanished from the face of the planet. And at this point in the story, no one knows why. No one knows what happened to them. They're just gone. And that's it. Galbadia is still around, and they had annexed all their neighboring lands. So now we're kind of in an uneasy period of peace, kind of, where there's no war going on, but there's a lot of small countries that are kind of peeved off because they're currently being occupied by this massive empire. So there's a few resistance movements around, but for the most part, the world is at peace. So that's kind of the state of the world currently. I'm going to hit confirm on that because it's been more than 2.5 minutes. All right. Okay, so she's going to go over elemental attacks. I'm going to try to... Oh, she not... Okay, yeah, I'm going to skip that one too. It's another tutorial. Don't have to worry about it. But I'm going to go and switch what he is going to learn as well. Fire Magic Refinery. Again, the junctions are important. Elemental Defense is a good one. But I'm going to stick with Refinery. And before doing anything else, I'm going to use a G returner to revive the dead GF, Quetzalcoatl. And then I'm going to junction Ifrit onto someone. It doesn't matter who, just so he gets the experience. Alright, and work our way back. Alright, so this is fire. There's nothing off to the left. Those are just dead ends. If you were doing this for the first time on the timer, that would be things to waste your time with. Okay. I'm just going to get us back to the garden and then probably call it for this episode, because I don't know how long I've been recording. Probably half an hour or so, maybe a little bit longer even. So I'm just going to do that. I'm not sure what else to say at this point without getting ahead of myself for what I'm going to be doing in the next one. So... the next episode, the coming episodes. Alright. Okay. So I can say that typically it's a good idea to draw from new enemies. It's because they may have magic that you haven't encountered yet, and collecting magic as an item, a consumable item, is important. For reasons of junctioning, and I guess I'll explain junctioning a little bit. I don't want to go too much into detail, because I don't want to give away the best way to do it, and then end up, you know, ruining your experience playing it if you ever do. But I will give a brief tutorial at the beginning of the next episode, I think, just explaining why drawing magic is important, and then from there, we'll continue on. Ooh, jellyfish, huh? Okay. So now that we're on the main road, we shouldn't encounter anything. Get back to the garden. Okay, so here's where she gives you the tutorial on how to change what your GF learns. Just skip that. She said, change into your uniform and meet me in the first floor lobby. Well, I'm not going to do that just yet, for reasons. This, I'm pretty sure, is still empty. Yeah. That's another thing. The draw points in the world, because you can draw from monsters, and you can draw from draw points within the world. The draw points in the world recharge based on how many steps the protagonist has taken. I'm not listening to you guys, I don't care. So there is a save point up here, now that Quistis has left the party. And I'm going to get to that save point and then save and end this episode. So to save, step into it, and when you open your menu, you'll have a new option at the bottom of the screen. I'm just going to override the previous attempt here, because I had recording issues that time. 41, so it's been about 41 minutes, probably 45, counting the intro video. So that's good length for an episode. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all next time.